morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Hi, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas, and today we are discussing poor eyesight, strange terms, and toasty cable on Light Talk.
And this is David, broadcasting from the beautiful Belmont Shore area of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
And sister who comes to
No,
visit.
she's not here.
I know, but I'm thinking of her kindly.
Okay, well, there you go. So welcome, everyone, to episode 129 of Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers. You know, we have a little bit of news here. Steve has been busy working on a show, and it opened last weekend.
Yay!
So why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Steve? How'd it go?
It's going fine. I just worked on a new play by Gordon Dahlquist. He is a novelist and a playwright, and one of the areas that he is interested in is science fiction. So we did this new play entitled Red Chariot, which deals with time travel and kind of the unintentional consequences of new technology. So it's kind of a dystopian future. It comes at you fast and furious. People have no idea what's going on because we are jumping into the past, into the future, into the present through this kind of time travel, fast-paced, scary world of what might be, and is constantly changing because people are changing things. So everything changes on stage almost with every line that comes out of someone's mouth.
Wow. A lot of cues?
I don't know if it has a lot of cues or not.
Is that how we judge shows, by the number of
No,
cues?
but just the way he's saying it, everything's changing. So I was wondering if it's heavily
I mean, Gordon was willing to pay me by the cue, but I said no.
That's a deal.
I just think. I mean, the play's pretty drastic.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes sharp turns throughout the course of the play.
Wow.
But I think this idea about unintentional consequences is really kind of fascinating. You know, if you think about the guys who developed the cell phone, I don't think they ever thought what it would become. Right. They developed a phone that, divorces us from using a landline. But if you have a cell phone today, making a phone call is the last thing you want.
It divorces people from reality. They're connected to that cell phone.
You're right. I mean, they're constantly staring at the internet. So Undermain Theatre, an equity house here in Dallas, is known for doing contemporary experimental work, new work. They're interested in that new language being created by playwrights. They have a 37-year history, so they have a wide variety of playwrights who've come there and either been in residence or spent extended time developing the work in town.
Yeah. Undermain's a good company. They were there when I was there. And I really love watching their work. So thanks, Steve. Congratulations on your show.
Mazel tov.
You're welcome. You're welcome, gosh darn it.
Hey, guys, that's time for Professor Stan's Neighborhood.
Oh, it's me again. That's right. And today we salute our many listeners in the city of Mumbai, the gateway to India, home of Bollywood, and my favorite food, butter chicken. With a population of nearly 19 million, we're reaching a whopping 37 designers each Saturday, unless the Mumbai cricket team is playing a home game. A fun fact, police are paid an extra 30 rupees each week if they grow a mustache. Mumbai is also the home of the Royal Opera House and is India's only surviving opera house, completed in 1912. Mumbai is also home to two of India's most famous theaters, the National Center for the Performing Arts and the Prithvi Theatre, founded in 1941 by the Bollywood star Shashi Kapoor and his wife Jennifer. For its 50th anniversary, the Indian government issued a commemorative stamp to mark the occasion. Now going strong for 78 years, Shashi Kapoor has created a permanent home for theater arts in Mumbai. Today, the Prithvi Theatre continues to flourish, providing a workspace for new talent and a source of inspiration to theater fraternity and audiences with over 540 shows a year. So, a hearty Lumen welcome to our listeners from Mumbai in India.
And thank you, Stan. That concludes this week's episode of Professor Stan's Neighborhood. So Steve has our first question.
And it comes all the way from Kathy in Las Vegas, Nevada. And she was saying, I was wondering, what do you do when you cue and wear glasses or contacts? Does it matter? To me, yes, it does matter. And I wear both glasses and contacts. And I'll tell you what I do. I stay as I started. So if I start the process in glasses, I go through first preview in glasses. If I started in contacts, I stay in contacts through the whole process. I want my eyesight to be the same as I work through the show. Does it make a difference? I don't know. It does to me. What about you, David? You wear glasses.
I actually have prescription ashtrays. I think I've got 2200 vision. It is so bad.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. But I see really well with contact lenses. And I've got like 2015 in contact lenses. And amazingly, I don't have astigmatism, which is really bizarre. But that being said, for a while, I was thinking about getting LASIK. And I did a lot of research about it. And LASIK, for the most part, is very good, except there is one side effect that affects some people, and that has to do with night vision, because some people claim that during the night they get a lot of glare when they have LASIK, and that would be a killer for me in the theater. And I've talked to some designers, lighting designers who've had LASIK. They've had no problems in the theater. I've spoken to other lighting designers. They have had problems. And there's actually a big discussion about this on the USA 829 group page a few weeks ago. And, again, it's just some people react well to it, some people don't. Now, here's a horror story. My brother had LASIK done on his eyes about 8 years ago, and they screwed it up. And now he's almost blind in one eye. And he just had his cornea replaced in that eye. So I don't care what anyone says, it's not a 100% safe operation. So be careful. Your eyes are everything. Unless you're going to light shows with a seeing eye dog, which I thought about doing with Kaya. That way I get Kaya into the theater. She says it's too blue. I don't know. What do you think, Stan?
Well, I wouldn't change your corrective vision midstream. I think what Steve says is right. Whatever you start with, you should stay with. I had pretty good eyesight to my mid-40s, didn't need any glasses. And then all of a sudden, I was watching a show, and I went to my colleague. I said, does everything look a little fuzzy, muddy to you? And he went, no, it looks great. And I went, So I went and had the eyes checked, and I do have astigmatism. And so I'm wearing corrective vision, and I wear progressive lenses. I'm thinking about getting some distance only for driving, which are less expensive. And the progressives have pros and cons. I would say this about her question that's not in her question, but something to be aware of is as we age, the lens, the cornea, yellows. So there's a color temperature shift. So and it's so subtle that you don't notice it. So something for lighting designers to think about is as you age, you might be seeing things warmer than they really are. Most people are going to need cataract surgery at some point if they live long enough. And two things happen: that lens gets cloudy, so you get a lot of scatter, and the other thing that happens is it yellows. So I have talked to lighting design friends who have had that surgery, and they go, "Oh my God, everything is so bright and crisp now," but they didn't realize it was because it happens very, very gradually. Mine are not ripe yet, essentially. So, but I'll do them as soon as they're ready to go.
I think the important thing about this question has to be, what is the best way of seeing the light on stage? And also, how to change your focal point from like 70 feet away to like 3 feet away, because you're looking up and down constantly. You're looking at the stage, and then you're looking down at the monitor, your magic sheets. And if you're one of those people who have like this tiny little magic sheet scrolled out and this little pencil lines, which I think is insane, then you're going to have to focus on that. And after a while, your eyes are going to get really, really tired.
True.
Let's state the obvious here, guys. After about 2 or 3 hours, you really need a break. You really need a break, really after 2 hours, because you need to rest your eyes. You need to just go out someplace and there's daylight and just get everything back to normal again and rest your eyes. I have students who work for 8 hours straight on shows. I said, you can't see anything, and you could tell by the lighting. because everything's muddy and they're just pumping light in. No. You just need to rest your eyes because there's a lot of eye strain in what we do. So it's up to you. If you feel better doing it in glasses, do it in glasses. If you feel better doing it in contacts, do it in contacts. And if you feel better doing it with an eye patch, do it with an eye patch. You could be the first pirate designer.
I would love to have contacts, but my doctor says that because of the astigmatism that I have, it wouldn't work for me. So maybe so I'll just get my cataracts done in about 5-10 years. And some people say, my elderly friends who are in their 80s and 90s say, oh, the best part about getting old is getting cataract surgery. It's like you get new eyes. It's like you're reborn.
Douglas in Cambridge, I guess that's Cambridge. Where's Cambridge?
Massachusetts.
Mass. Yeah, Cambridge. I bet there are other Cambridges too. But it says Cambridge, so he writes, why do I see a mix of brands of gels and light plots? It seems like Roscoe, Lee, and GAM and others each have hundreds of gels, and many are the same or extremely close. Isn't it easier to just learn one family?
He's a socialist.
Well, Douglas...
Capitalism, Doug. It's capitalism.
I don't know, man. I've lit a lot of shows. The three of us have lit hundreds and hundreds of shows. And I'm telling you, I have not memorized even one family of colors, nor would I even bother.
They keep making new ones all the time.
I can't even remember the security code to my house. So, yeah, I remember colors that I have a fondness to.
Roscoe Lean 869.
Roscoe Lean 869, which we had a long discussion about on the group page last week, because that was one of Theron's favorite colors. 869 is a color of its own, and they can only produce it in this type of material. I haven't seen anyone reproduce it very well. So I don't use that anymore because obviously it's an obsolete color. But I can remember 68, 69, Roscoe Lux, some Lee colors, obviously. But no, I don't remember all the numbers, okay? So
he's asking, why not one family?
Because there are Roscoe Lux colors that are not available in Lee. And there are Lee colors that are not available in GAM. And there's certainly a lot of GAM colors that are not available in the other two.
I love the GAM blues.
Yeah, like Stan says, love GAM blues. And I've been using a lot more of them lately. So everybody makes different colors. There may be some colors that are very close, but for the most part, yes, you're going to use all three. You're going to use Roscoe, Lee, and GAM. But you know something? I think it's all academic because gels are becoming obsolete anyway. We're all going to color mixing instruments. And I think it's important to have colors that you really like to identify as a reference so that you could tell your programmer, okay, take fixtures 4 and 6 and put an R64 in them. So the program can type in, R64, and the color comes on, and it's not even close to R64 because the board manufacturers still haven't gotten that right. It's somewhat close, but not really. And let's be honest, it's really going to look different depending on what other colors are on stage when you're pulling things up. So the way I'm mixing colors nowadays, I start with one color of one system, and then I come around it with fill and other angles of light and adjust those colors to that primary key color, whether it's contrasting it or supporting it or whatever. I could just say that the key of this look is going to be Lee 202, and then I start with that, and I adjust it a bit, and then I build around it and create the atmosphere around it.
Doug, I feel your pain. I use the Yale Swatch Book. That would be No Color, R80, and Lee 201.
There you go.
And it has never failed
It
me.
will never fail. It
And,
works
and,
great.
and if I'm feeling Italian and musical, I throw a little R27.
Ooh, very sexy color.
I tell you what, David brought up a good point with the color mixing stuff. And here is my pro tip to you that programmers are all going to scoff at. I still buy some gel. I still get some gel. And I go to my programmer and I say, here's a cut of, I don't know, R80. Make that color for me. So I give them a sample to look at. So they can kind of take that and look at the light through it and go, oh, yeah, I'll mix this color for you in a second. So I still hand them a cut of gel so they can dial in what I want them to dial in.
That's interesting. I always tell them, I said, okay, take magenta to 50, cyan to 25. Make that cyan to 30. Yeah, that's where I want it. And that's the color. So again, if you're working with a CYM system or an RGB system, you need to be able to do both of those. And those color pickers that you get on the screen, I mean, you can sort of get a starting point, but you're not going to get really dialed in color unless you're actually mixing the color. And I think it's great that, Steve, that you actually have that color there and you're able to give it to the programmer. But it's going to look different on stage than the gel, because you're looking at a gel.
But that's not the rock and roll way. Anybody can give numbers. The rock and roll way is to, have a light, throw the gel up in front of it, and then mix to that color.
Yeah.
And you dial it. You forget about the color picker together. Color pickers are Satan. They just do not work.
I'll tell you how we do it in the museum way. So the museum way is very scientific, but I want to go back to the question for a second. He's asking why all these different, gel books and why, and if the color is extremely close. If you're looking at the color through an incandescent lamp or through a gel book, that's one thing, and that's color matching is quite a science, right? And it's not just that the light source and the gel looks the same, because that's not really the result. The result is, what does the light look like on a surface, on a material, on a person, and is it reflecting back the same? We learned that the hard way. So all these different colors that may look similar when you're looking at them in the swatch book may behave differently in practice, and that's part of what David, I think, is getting at. In terms of the color picker problem, which I agree exists, I know that the industry is looking at a way to unify that, because different LEDs, different CMYs, different fixtures are not all going to be able to compensate for their inherent differences. That's a challenge. But in the museum world, or in other sort of applications, the XY location in a color space is quite precise. But you could mix precisely to the XY locus in a color space. That doesn't necessarily mean, as Steve and David are getting at, you're going to get that result from different light sources because of their differences in behavior. So you could, and we actually did some work with this on color matching at the Smithsonian, where we took spectroscopy measurements with a high-end spectrometer of the VL5s, okay, at their intensity, so on and so forth. Sent that data to ETC, precise XY data, 1936 CIE color space. Came back with a custom build of the console. Went to those colors. They did not transfer to a luster. They were exactly what the VL5 was producing, but they didn't transfer, and we shouldn't have expected it to. But if we shined them on white paper, they did look exactly the same. But when we shined them on the artwork, which was multicolored, no.
Well, yeah.
So there. For all you color geeks out there.
The bottom line, Douglas, is because we can.
Right.
If you think about, think about,
right.
in the early 1980s, you either used Morpheus or used Verilight.
Right.
Now there are 20 different companies, so you mix and match to get, you really surgically dial in exactly what you want. So yeah, they're all similar colors, but they're all slightly dissimilar.
Yeah, but don't think you have to memorize the numbers. Nobody memorizes the numbers. All right. Just have gel books there. It's better to have gel books there. And it's like what Ken Billington said in our interview when he was talking about how his assistants wanted to change his incandescent light over his desk. He said, don't do that. He goes, that's what I use to look at colors.
Yeah.
I hold the gel up there and I need something at 3,200 Kelvin.
That's his reference source, right?
Because I have my sunlight coming through my window. If I'm using arc fixtures, I look at the sunlight, and if I'm using incandescent fixtures, I look at my desk lamp. So again, just choose the color and learn how to mix using RGB and CMY, and then just go and have fun. And don't get locked into it. I mean, color changing fixtures are fantastic because it gives you infinite flexibility at the moment. And the directors say, I know you want R67, but that's a little too green. Can you pull some of the green out? Sure, add a little magenta. Well, there you go.
Tom in the Netherlands writes, why do cables get hot? What is considered normal and what is signaling trouble? And then he says, I'm not referencing too hot to touch or smoking. So I think there's a little bit of a trick question here. So I did have to do a little research about what could cause this. So the first thing that comes to mind is you just have more amps running through the cable than they're designed for, right? That's basically you've got a piece of pipe and you're pushing too much water through too fast, so that there's going to be excess pressure on that pipe. And before it bursts, you're going to feel that pressure. So in the wire, same thing, before it bursts into flames or into smoke, you're going to feel some heat. So you could just be running or asking for too much electricity too fast in there. Another way could be you have an electrical short where one wire from one terminal is getting close to another wire from another terminal, and you got arcing going on, and that can cause the heat. But I think maybe what Tom in the Netherlands is getting at is coiled wire. That if you cable your stuff in such a way where you create coils, wraps and wraps and wraps of cable, or wrapping cable around your pipes, you're basically making a transformer, which creates heat and magnetism. And then the energy passes from one coil to another, and you're kind of making a transformer. That could cause it too. So you do want to run your cables parallel to each other and not create spirals. And there are a couple of others, but they're more obscure. But I think those are the three primary answers that I'm aware of. What about you guys?
Okay, I have a story here that you guys are not going to believe. Sometimes inexplicable events occur that bridge the insane ramblings of the Lumen and Tappert brothers. So just hear me out for a second, okay?
We're sitting back and listening.
Sit back and listen, because this blew my mind. Okay, as everyone knows, I'm sort of semi-retired. I have nothing to do in the fall semesters now.
So you're reading all kinds of crazy stuff.
No, I don't read. I drive in my Tesla, because it costs me no money to drive in my Tesla. Because that's basically what old guys do. We just drive around, especially in Southern California.
I can just picture this.
Oh,
okay.
It's unbelievable. So I'm driving around, and and I can go like 250 miles before I have to charge. And then when I need to recharge, I just go into a supercharger with all the other old guys and their Teslas.
This is what I have to look forward to.
Oh, it's fantastic. And we have these stupid vanity license plates. Everybody's looking at mine. It says Lumen Bro. And they say, what's a Lumen Bro? But anyway, I kind of digress. So I'm driving around listening to episode 1938 of Car Talk.
Oh.
And Rocky from Tucson, Arizona calls in and asks a question why, in his owner's manual, it says that running out of gas will damage the catalytic converter.
Oh.
Well, Tom and Ray come to the conclusion that when you run out of gas, uncombusted air enters into the catalytic converter, creating a supercombustive state, thus overheating the converter and melting it. Wow. Yes, air can melt things. And this is a big thing. I didn't know that. So I believe that there must be a crack somewhere in the insulation of the cable or plug, allowing air to enter the plug and overheating it. That's my answer, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, you've got a good point. I mean, I would look at the connector and see if the screw is slightly loose on one of the leads. Yeah. So you can get a loose screw. But the part of the question here also is what's signaling trouble. Anytime your cable gets warm, that's signaling trouble. The cable should be about the same temperature as the ambient air around it. So if it's warming up, the other thing you might consider is the length of cable. Maybe you're asking that cable to do something it's not designed for. You have an excessive length for the current that's flowing, and you're changing the resistance inside the cable, and that's heating it up.
So it's the catalytic converter. The catalytic converter in the cable is overheating.
Catalytic. That's hard. Catalytic. Yeah, okay. You are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers, and Light Talk is sponsored by demand, the Cheeky Rigger of Scheffield. Since 1973, the Cheeky Rigger of Scheffield has been serving the entertainment industry with forward-thinking stagehand fashion, underwear, and our signature cologne for designers. Today, we're proud to announce 3 new fragrances for the holidays. Warning, standby and complete. Warning is a personal statement of masculinity that screams impending danger. Warning is the sweet, natural fragrance of bitter almonds, just like cyanide. And just like cyanide, not everyone knows it's there until it's too late. Warning is as clear as the sign that says, "Don't park illegally." Warning, are you ready to give notice of bad behavior? Standby. Standby is our new fragrance that says you
are in a state of waiting to secure an unreserved place into a journey of love and adventure. Standby is the promise of movement that never comes. It will drive her crazy with anticipation. Standby, the fragrance that suggests a lone candle in a dark, primeval forest threatened by fresh winter snow. Light your candle tonight. Complete. Complete, the name says it all. Complete is the alpha and omega. Only after you splash it on does your body chemistry provide the necessary information for Complete to transform you into the love machine you know you can be, if just given the chance. Complete knows no boundaries. Complete will equally stimulate all sexes, so be careful. A little splash goes a long way. Complete should not be used around bees. Warning, Standby and Complete, all new for Christmas 2019. Coming soon, Cheeky Rigger Asia, the Cheeky Rigger of Scheffield. We make underwear, too.
And now, back to Light Talk.
The sound of those ducks tell us that once again, it is time for our infamous segment, Let's Talk About. And today we have a very deep and sensitive issue that we are going to tackle. What do you do when you are offered to design a show that you have deep moral issues with?
I thought about it very early in my career. This was the example I gave myself. What would happen if I was asked to do a play that purported the statement that the Holocaust did not occur? Would I light it? And I came to the conclusion that I would not. I just could not participate in something that I felt was the opposite of my principles. And I have to have principles. Now, I'll just tell one quick story. We did a show a few years ago here at school and the content was somewhat, it was about social media and it was about bullying and there were some things in there that had sexual stuff. And the student who I had assigned to the production came from a particular background and came to me and said, I'm really thankful that you are offering me this design assignment. I really want to do a show, but I have to tell you, the content makes me uncomfortable. And because of my background and my beliefs. And I said, well, I don't think it's appropriate for me to force you to do that. So we will ask another designer and we'll try and find something else for you. And that's what we did. I think it's just a sensitivity. So that's where I come down on the question.
How much is it paying?
Steve has a price, obviously.
It's never happened to me. The only issues that I have are censorship. And it bothers me if we're going to put, Sound of Music and everybody dies at the end, or the first nude, Little Abner.
Now that I would go to see.
If a theater is going to produce the play the way it was written. Don't hedge your bets and try to add a song to it or change the meaning of the play. So I've never had that problem. I mean, certainly if I had an issue with the morality of the play, I would turn the project down. But it's never happened. I just don't see it happening. And I do tons of new work.
Artists need to make their own choices. And that includes student artists, too. I don't think I've ever turned down a show, even though I've had shows that I felt were offensive, maybe, to me. But I always found something in that working experience that made it worthwhile. If I felt that it was going to hurt someone else, that maybe an audience member would be hurt by it, I would not do it. That I wouldn't do. Then that's who I am, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. But it's rare that would ever happen, but I've had that same situation where a student says, I really don't feel good doing this play. Absolutely, that's your choice because you're an artist. You're a student, but you're also an artist. I'm not one to say, well, you're a student. You should do everything. You should bend the rules. You could try to get over this. I don't think so because we choose our art. We're creating art, and we should be choosing our teams, and we should be choosing our art. And I think that's a good thing for a student to actually say, no, I can't do this piece. That's cool. We'll find you another piece, like Stan said.
Yeah, well, like you, David, I did think about that early in my career in case it happened. It has never occurred to me either where I was presented with an opportunity where I felt I needed to walk away. So it hasn't happened either, so I'm grateful for that.
Right.
Well, I think what you're going to find is plays in general reinforce middle-class values. And a middle-class value is simply good is rewarded and evil is punished. And when we have a play in which that doesn't happen, that challenges how we perceive the world around us. I've done some controversial plays in my life, but what I find in doing them is that half the audience leaves the theater feeling particularly good about themselves because their value system has been reinforced. And oddly enough, the other half of the audience leaves the theater feeling the same way. We take away from the theater what we want to take away from it. And if you go and see a play and your value system is completely changed in 90 minutes, then you probably don't have much of a value system to start with. So, what I have done on 2 occasions is I have turned work down because I chose not to work with that design team, or I chose not to work with that director. And that was just from experiences I had in the past that weren't pleasing. I mean, it's not about bullying or not about being cheap or anything. It's just like I don't really fit in this crowd. So I chose not to pursue those relationships, more so than worrying about the content of a play.
So Steve has our last question of the day.
Okay, it's Linda in California. And Linda, you should know better. So Linda in California writes, I was stumped yesterday when I heard my boss ask for a martingale. What did he mean? All right. Do you guys know what a martingale is?
I had to look it up, tell you the truth.
Well, there's the probability theory.
Yeah.
And there's also a martingale, which is a betting strategy.
The betting strategy, yeah. I have a story about that, but I wanted to see what Steve has to say.
What is it, Steve?
Are you high? Are you high?
Yes, I am. Actually, I am high right now. I'm really stoned because I've got this terrible cold, and I've been on meds now for the past 5 days. So yes, I am high.
So a martingale is taken from show horses. Horse racing and jumping, and it's a type it's a type of 3-way harness that keeps the horse's head from coming too far back and whacking the rider. So a martingale, where I first heard it used was in the film industry, and what a martingale is a 3-for block, and coming off that 3-for block is a single piece of cable to a male connector. So a martingale is a unique type of 3-for.
Huh. I've never heard that before.
That's because you're in Florida.
Maybe it could be. Though they do film here, but I haven't done much film. I can picture the 3-for. We had 60 amp 3-fers and all that stuff at PA when I was working there, but I never saw one of those things.
Well, you better get used to it because the pornography industry is moving to Florida because they're getting away from California because of all the regulations that happen. This is the true story, by the way. It's been happening over the past several years that because California has a lot of health regulations for that industry, they're moving to Florida. They're doing
where we have no laws at all.
People don't care about regulating pornography there.
That's true.
They're going to be using martingales there. So you got to get with it, Stan.
Life is cheap in Florida for that kind.
Life is cheap in Florida. Hey guys, that Hammond organ solo in the background tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for a schedule of our future guests and listen to us on your favorite podcast network, including Spotify, TuneIn, Google, and livedesignonline.com. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook group page and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
But remember, if you're that type that likes to litigate, our law firm of Fleck, Flock, Flare, and Glare and their paralegal snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Lone Star State.
And be sure to tune in next week when we chat with designer Herrick Goldman. Yay, another Broadway designer.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye. Check out the episodes. We got so many of them.
Light Talk.